Parents of TikTok, what is the creepiest thing your kid has ever said to you?
Hey y'all. So when my daughter was about 4, maybe 5 years old, she had an imaginary friend. It was a horse. His name was Thunder. She used to run around the house all the time saying, "Yeehaw, Thunder." Well, my wife and I, we really didn't think too much about it. All kids that age have imaginary friends or imaginary pets, right? Well, one night I came out to the living room to sit down and watch TV with everybody, and Harley was in the middle of the couch. No big deal. I always sat at the end of the couch anyways. I go to sit down, and Harley says, "Dad, you can't sit there. Thunder's sitting there." I said, "Well, Thunder's going to have to move because that's Dad's spot." Without missing a beat, she looked at me straight in the eye and said, "Be careful, Dad. Thunder doesn't like you." Not really a big deal, not too creepy, but it was still kind of nerve-rattling. Even my wife looked at me like, "What?"
So my 4-year-old now, but he was 3 then. This was last year. We were sitting watching Netflix, and then he goes, "Hey, Mom, do you remember when I was a girl? Do you remember that I loved ladybugs, and you used to have them for me everywhere? And do you remember that we used to live far, far away? It wasn't here, but you were my mom." I mean, used to his stuff. He usually tells us stories like this all the time. He feels things, he sees things, so, we've learned to adapt. So naturally I asked, "No way, Betty, what happened?" He goes, "Remember, I fell asleep and I just never woke up. And you were so sad. And you were so sad, Mom. And I was sad I had to go, so I decided to come back to you." I'm a mama for boys, never had a girl or an infant lost.
So I don't know if this qualifies as creepy, but when my son was almost 3 years old, he was sitting at the bottom of the stairs. My husband was with him. I was coming down the stairs from getting ready for the day. And out of nowhere, he says, "Tiny baby, Mommy's tummy." What? My husband and I were not trying to have a kid right then. So we were like, "Oh, what the heck is he talking about? That is so weird." Lo and behold, just a few weeks later, I was feeling really gross and decided that I should probably take a pregnancy test just to be safe. It was positive.
Not my child, my nephew, but it's fine. So 2 days after my child was born, my nephew was sitting on the couch, and my sister came home from work, and she's getting ready to go to bed, and he's holding on to her and goes, "Oh, look, my baby sister." And my sister and I kept telling him, "Nope, that's your cousin, it's fine, whatever." So a couple months later, it was about 7 o'clock in the morning, and my nephew decided to come upstairs and wake me up, and looks me dead in the face and goes, "That's not your baby anymore." "The fuck did you just say to me?" "That's not your baby anymore. You're not her mommy anymore." We want to fast forward to a year later, and he was correct on both counts because my sister adopted her, and that's his baby sister now, and I'm not her mom. In more ways than one, it's fine.
So this is more a nonverbal communication, but when my son was 8 months old, he and I were at lunch alone together at this diner. And then we had this male server. He was a little bit older, Caucasian guy, seemed really normal, polite, but my son would freak out. Like he'd never freaked out like this before. Freaking out every time the guy came by our table. Ultimately, I had to leave the restaurant because he just could not be around this person. A month later, that person made the front page and was arrested on multiple accounts of child molestation.
Yours was good. Here's mine. She was also 4. In this very disgusting playroom, my 4-year-old decided to, well, now 5, she's in kindergarten. Yay. We were playing, and she started saying that in her past life, she didn't have toys like this. She only had wood toys. And that her mom taught her if the wall she built wasn't strong enough and would get knocked down, that she should just build it up taller and stronger. And then she said that they kicked her out because she was bad and they didn't like her, and that she was young, and that she walked and walked and walked and walked until she got tired. And then she took her shoes off, laid on a bench, went to sleep, woke up, walked and walked and walked and walked, and then met us. So basically, she just died homeless.
When our daughter was about 4, she wasn't feeling well one night, so she came into my room and we made her a little bed on the floor. The kids love doing that. But every time she went to lay down, she'd look at her pillow and scream like something was scaring her about it. So I told her just to get up in bed with me. So we're laying there trying to go to sleep, and she looked up at the ceiling and said, "Tell that man to stop staring at us." And I said, what man? And looked around, and she said there was a man up on the ceiling and that he was not nice. I asked her to describe who it was. Did she know him? What did he look like? And she told me exactly what he looked like and said he wanted us gone. So I'm like, okay, this is great. What am I supposed to do? So I did the only thing I could think of. I stood up on the bed, waved my arms around like I was pushing him away, and said, there, is he gone? And she said, yep, turned over and went to sleep.
Probably the most creepiest thing that my son ever said to me was when he was about 3 years old and we were in the car, and he said, Mom, I used to have a different life. When my old dad got mad at me, he pulled over the car and threw me over a bridge, and I died. And he said, I remember everything. I just couldn't tell you when I was born. But God let me pick my new parents, and I picked you.
So it wasn't my kid, but it was my little sister. And I have so many like creepy stories with her. But one night she was staying the night with me and she forgot her sleep medicine. So she was up mad late. And I knock out at like 1:30. But I wake up in the middle of the night to use the restroom. She's still not asleep. And I notice my door is locked. And I ask her, I'm like, Heavenly, why did you lock my door? She looks at me with no hesitation and says, there was a lady in a black dress in the hallway and I didn't want her to get in your room.
My oldest child wakes me up in the middle of the night and tells me about this horrifying dream that she just had, where a massive demon is straddling her and has these two fingers that are 9 inches long, and they are on fire, and he is trying to, how she described it, claw the life out of her. And she was able to escape her bed and wake up and come tell us. Well, later that day, my second oldest comes and tells me he had the same frickin' dream. So I'm going through their room, praying over their space and praying over their bed, and both of their pillows have massive, seared, singed claw marks through them. Literally parallel. Both of their pillows. When I tell you, I about burnt my house down.
I'll just answer that question since my mom isn't around, but here you go. So on the way back from school, I kind of went on a tangent on how an icicle is a proper weapon to murder someone because you can just melt it and you get away with the crime.
So when my child was about 2.5, 3 years old, I go into her room one morning because she's laughing hysterically. And I go in there and she's laughing and she's playing and talking to nothing. And I ask her, I said, who are you talking to? What you playing with? And she says, the lady on the wall. Now look, no lady on the wall. It's no big deal. She then proceeds to tell me, did you know that when you were little, I was your mother? And I said, really? She said, yeah. I called you Lucy and you hated it. Instant chills. My mother, she was murdered 3 weeks before my daughter was born. And she did in fact call me Lucy when I was a child, and I asked her to stop calling me that and to not tell anybody that she called me that, because I had an aunt on my dad's side whose name was Lucy, and when I was little she scared me. So every time Mom would call me by Lucy, I'd be like, don't say that! Don't call me that! Yeah, so crazy. Anyways, we proceed throughout the day, and we're in the living room later on, and she said, look, that's who I am. And she pointed to the wall. She said, that's who I was when I was your mother. That's the lady in the wall. It was a picture of my mom. Really creepy. There's no way my daughter could have known that my mother called me Lucy as a child. As a matter of fact, when she called me Lucy, and she told me that she called me Lucy, I hadn't thought about it in years. True story. Oh, another thing. During this time, my daughter looked exactly like my mother. After a while, she stopped seeing her. Her features changed. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not, but true story.
When my son was about 3 years old, we were sitting down one night reading a bedtime story. My husband was not going to be home until pretty late that night from work. And as we're reading our story, my son looks out the window and says, "Mom, Dad's home." I look out the window, the dogs hadn't barked, the light's not on. And I said, "No, Dad's not home yet." And he said, "No, Daddy is right outside." And he's staring at the window and saying he's right there. And he's so angry at me that I won't let Dad inside the house. And so I look out the front window and I walk into my bedroom and I look out the slider thinking maybe one of the neighbors had come by, which would be really unusual because we did live in the country at this time and our closest neighbor was about a quarter mile down the road, but things happen. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was safe. Look out there, nobody's out there. And I'm telling him there's nobody outside. Dad's not going to be home until late. And he is adamant that no, Dad is outside. You need to let him in. And he's getting really upset. So I turn on the lights outside. I walk out there with him. There's nobody out there. And he describes, Dad is out there. He's in the red shirt. Dad is out there. You need to let him in. And I look at him and I'm like, Dad didn't wear a red shirt to work today. He wore his white shirt and his jeans. And he was just beside himself angry at me that I was keeping Dad outside. Fast forward a few days, I had told my husband about this story. He was doing a search on his biological father. Now, mind you, they had never met. He's never seen a picture of him. We have no idea really what he looks like or much about him at all. During the search, we find out that his biological father had passed away around the time that my son had said that there was somebody outside. Now, the strange thing is that my husband doesn't really look like his mom. They have obviously similar characteristics, but we were really curious to know what his dad looked like because there's not a whole lot of similar facial features between my husband and his mom. I don't know what your beliefs are as far as the afterlife and spiritual realm go, but I definitely think that we had a visitor that night, and I think that my son saw his grandfather.
Silliest thing, strangest, creepiest, whatever you want to call it. My 4-year-old and my 3-year-old will sit up and laugh about the fact that my 3-year-old, that they were supposed to be born together. My 4-year-old was born January 2017, my 3-year-old in March 2018. The 4-year-old, when I was pregnant with her, my numbers were 3 times as much that they were supposed to be, what you would normally find for a multiple pregnancy. But she was a single birth. My 3-year-old was a twin that I did not know was in there. Her twin died at 10 weeks, and she was found at 5 months, 21 days. And the funny thing is, they always refer to her twin as him. It's like they all know each other, and they think the shit is hilarious. Me, on the other hand, don't know what the hell to think. So
let me know in the comment section if you want to hear more stories. But basically, 8 months ago, my son would not sleep in his room. He would have to sleep in my room, and it got too much because I'm not on the same schedule as him, obviously. And I was like, my guy, this is not going to work. I have you on a schedule. You have to go in your room. And he's like, well, I don't want to be around Shadow Man. So I was like, who's Shadow Man? And he starts describing in very intricate details a demonic being. My son draws, and he is always being artsy, but this is the type of shit he draws. So me being spiritual, I'm like, is this Shadow Man bothering you? Does he scare you? My son's like, no, he's actually nice, but it's invading my space, mommy. When I go outside, he's right there. When I go to the basement to get something to drink, he's standing in the corner, and he stands over my bed at night. I want him gone. When I tell you my ass took this little man around this house telling, God bless you, Shadow Man, but you got to go. I opened all the windows, all the doors,